Now that you've done the first 3 motifs, you shouldn't need too much instruction. I should be able to just go through these videos, typing it in, and you can watch and follow if you need to. I've duplicated the track here, so I'm going to edit in motif D. We need a D1 for our pitch, so I'm scrolling down to where it says C1. D1 will be just above that. I'm going to zoom in so that I can see 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 at the top, and pencil tool. You might notice that as I was dragging the screen around, a couple of extra notes came in. You've got this little undo arrow here. If you tap something in by mistake, just click undo and that will get rid of it. That was easy enough. That's D, isn't it? Not D-I. Just lining up the playhead with bar 2 so I can paste D into there to create DI, and I'll paste it again because we're going to have DII as well. Let's go into this one first. Now you can see here that we've actually got all 3 lined up. You can see D, D, D at the top. So we just want to edit this middle one. That was the first copy I made. And we'll edit our notes in there. Make sure you scroll down so you can see them. And that's going to go to B flat 0. So that's just down a few notes. And these 3 notes stay at C. So that's done. Rename. And this one is DI. Go into the next one. Let's edit. Zoom in. Don't forget to zoom in so that you can see these extra numbers at the top. Really important that you're getting the note lengths exactly right. Scroll down to where those notes are. Need a G0, so that's going to come down a little bit further. And these 3 notes here down to B flat 0. And rename. That's done, except that I've called it did, which I don't want to do. Let me just go back in there. I think that might have been an autocorrect. There we go. Right, now that I've done that, I'm going to just show you, in case you weren't sure where to close this down from. You want to click this little icon in the top corner. It'll save, take you back to this screen with any other projects you've got. And you want to name it Ain't Nobody, so just click on that, type it in there. You might want to put your name or sequencing, because when we get into school, we're going to be transferring this across to the computers. Click done, and we're done. Motif E is super easy. Let's create a new track by duplicating this one. Let's edit in our first part. We're going to be on B flat 2. So I'll just scroll down. Actually, it'll be just underneath C3, B flat 2. So we're kind of in the right place. It's 2 bars long, so I'm going to just zoom in a bit. but I want to be able to see 2 bars. So bar 1 and bar 2, that's where bar 3 starts. Don't need to be in there. Let's tap in our first note on B flat. Oh, pencil tool, don't forget that. Nothing will happen without that. There we go. And that is already the right length. It should be 2 of these boxes when that is 1 bar. Let's tap in another one. It's got little lines underneath each of these notes. That's called tenuto. It means play the note for as long as possible for holding that note length. So it's a 1 beat note, but we're going to make it fill that whole beat. In our next bar, we are going to play D3. So that's up here. And I can save that. Now that's created 2 bars, so I'm just going to join them. Remember, hold down one, tap on the other, and double click on one of them, click join. I can rename that now as E. I'm going to copy this 3 times because we've got E, I, and E, I, and E, I. So 3 copies of this. And let's go into that second one and edit. So we've got them all here. We can just stay on this screen and edit them in. Those first 2 bars are motif E that we want to leave. So now we're looking at bar 3 and 4 for motif E, I. And we want to take these all the way down to G1. So let's select all of these by holding down on the first one and clicking the rest. Drag this down. And that's G1. Now we need to put these on B flat 1 and the last 2 on C2. Let's just check what that sounds like. You can listen to this by clicking the playhead where you want it to be, pressing play. Yeah, obviously I've got my other motifs going on in there, but that sounds right to me. So I click done and just label that one as EI. Click on the third one. So now we're at bars 5 and 6 for EII. And these want to come right down. In fact, looking at these, there's a quicker way to do it. It's exactly the same as EI, but an octave lower. So what I'm going to do is delete this and copy EI, and that way there's not much editing to do. We've already done that, but we just need to make it down at G0 instead of G1. So I'm going to go in and edit that. This is bar 5 and 6, remember. I'm going to select all of these and drag them down so that the first note is G0. Now it is done. So I'm going to call that EII. It's done and autocorrect again. I do not want to call that either. That is going to really confuse me. There we go. And the final one, E with 3 little I's, is at D2. So I'm just going to go in here and edit that last one. This is at bars 7 and 8. You want to make sure you're editing the correct things. So these are all going to come down a bit. Let's select them all. we're going to move this first note down to D2. So 4 D2s, in fact 6 D2s, so these two can come down as well. And we're on E2 for these last two notes. And rename that with 3 eyes. I'm going to create our intro chord now. I've got a new track here and I'm going to edit in there. Now this is 3 notes played together, so a chord, held down for 4 bars. What I'm going to do is create 1 bar and then loop that so that it fills 4 bars. So I don't need to zoom in especially, I'm just editing within this first bar. Click the pencil tool. We need an A2 on beat 1. There we go. We need a D3 and an F3. And we'll just drag each of them out to fill the bar. You could actually do the first one, stretch it out to a full bar, and then the other two will be the correct length. Or you can do it where I've just done it. So that is done for now. Then I'm going to double click and put loop. And we want that, so it's just shown me all 8 bars that I can see on the screen that it's looped for. I don't want it for 8 bars, so I'm actually going to drag that back to the end of bar 4. So it will finish at bar 5. So that's our 4-bar chord, and we'll rename that intro chord. Done. I'm going to create chords V1, V2 and V3. So let's duplicate this, edit, and we need A2. Make sure you're right at the beginning where it says bar 1. Drag that out, not duplicate it, but drag that one out, okay. And now that I click on D3, that will be the same length as I dragged this one to, so I don't need to drag that one anymore. And F3. Done with that. Let's just loop that. And make sure it lasts for 2 bars. Okay, we're going to rename that V1 chord. And we'll copy that to do V2 chord. And V3 chord. V3 chord is slightly different, but that's fine. We'll be able to edit that later. Going into the middle one, which is bar 3 now. If you see these slightly shaded out ones, that's because that's the loop of this. So wherever I move this note should move too. So if I'm doing V2 chord, I need to move from an A2 to a B flat 2, which is just up 1, and then this note goes with it. So this is the loop of this. We need a D3 and an F3, so these 2 notes are already correct. And we can relabel this, rename this V2. Into the last one. So this will be bar 5 I'm looking at now, and bar 6 will change with it once I change it. Although what you need to do actually is create a second bar here, because it changes, it doesn't have the same notes in the second bar. So let's just do this bar, which is going to be G2. So this is going to come down, B flat 2, and and D3. So that's correct, but now we don't want this looped because this second bar is going to change. So let's create a new bar here. And in bar 6, we'll just zoom in very slightly because our notes are shorter here. They're 2 beats each, starting on B flat 2. And that's going to fill up half the bar. So let's just drag that halfway out between 6 and 7. D3, F3. And then C, E and G. That's more like it. And we're going to join these last 2 bits together and call it V3 chord. All done. So I can close that down now to save it, make sure it's titled correctly, and we're all done. We're on to motive F now. Now that I've got this many tracks, you can scroll the screen up and down, so you shouldn't be running out of space. This is 2 bars long, so I'm just going to make sure I can see 2 bars. There we go. A2, and that's going to last for 3.5 beats. So we want to take that up almost until bar 2 and just leave that last box empty. D and F. In this last little box then we've got a G, a C, and an E. Now we're going into the next bar. I'm going to have to zoom in a little bit more so that we can get the boxes smaller, because the next note is very short, or the next set of notes. So we've got to drag that right back. It should just fill up one of these really small boxes. So it should be half the length of the one just before it. Same pitch, but half the length. And in fact, all these 3 will be the same pitch and the same length as each other. And now we're going to A, not leaving any gaps here. Let's just drag that one up because that's on A flat at the moment. And this is going to be 3 boxes. D3 and F3. So that's quite a confusing looking one. There's several different note lengths in there, and we've got chords, so 3 notes at once. So something you can do if you want to listen to that and just check it feels and sounds right. Let's go back to the main screen. Let's first of all join these. And we'll rename it. It's always a good idea to rename it as soon as you've done it, otherwise you'll start to forget where you are. Okay, now if you want to listen to that and check it, just press on the keyboard and slide it to the right. Now you've got a volume level here, you've got a mute icon here, so if you don't want to hear it, you can press that. And you've got a solo. These headphones mean solo. So if I click that, that turns yellow. You can see the other tracks have grayed out. Take this back to the beginning, the playhead, hit play, and I can just listen to F and check it sounds kind of right. Something strange happened. Strange has happened when I joined it. Okay. I see what's happened. I'm going to keep this in the video. I could start again and make it look like I don't ever make mistakes. But I see why that happened. It's because when I tapped these notes in, they were actually the same length as these notes. It just didn't show because I hadn't joined the bars. As soon as I joined the bars, these notes became too long. So I'm just going to drag these notes back. This is the last note in bar 1. Drag them back to the bar line, and now it looks right. So that happened when I joined the 2 bars. It stretched out these notes because I hadn't actually tapped them in at the right length. So now it looks a bit better, and now when I listen to it, hopefully, fingers crossed, that sounds right. Yes. So that's motif F done. I'm going to copy that and paste it into bar 3. Actually, the end of that bar is empty, so you can see a big gap there, which kind of, could look like a mistake, like something's missing, but actually there's just rests there. So that is correct. I'm going to paste that in. And let's go with motif Fi, which is exactly the same rhythms, but some different pitches. So we're just going to drag some of these around. The first note is now B flat, D and F. Then we've got, let's just zoom in a little bit here so it's clearer. At the end of the bar, we've got an A, a C, and an E. So it's just the bottom note that changed. That's going to change with it. And then we're going to a B flat 2 here, and D3 and F3. That's still correct. So that is done. Let's rename, because that's always the first thing we want to do. That's Fi. And again, I can just have a listen through and check that that's right. Still got my solo thing highlighted here. I mean, even if you're not sure how it's meant to sound, if there's a note in there that just feels like it's wrong, feels like it's hurting your ears, then there's probably something wrong, and you'll want to go back to the beginning of this video or look really carefully at the notation and just check that everything is in the right place. Of course, if I don't want to have that muted or soloed, then I just take that icon off and you can drag these back. That is F and Fi done. We're up to motif G now. Let's create a new track. Make sure you can still see this. Motif G is just 1 bar. It's the lead into the chorus. It's a pretty simple rhythm. I'll just drag this out so you can see 1 bar. It doesn't need to be too zoomed in actually, because we're not doing anything quicker than quavers. We need a D2. Let's just down here a bit. And 2 boxes is correct at this kind of zoom level. I'm on 2 boxes for a crotchet. So we've got D, F, G. And now we're going to need 1 box each for A. So let's drag that back, and another G. Except that's G sharp. That's the one. Rename that. And we're going to copy and paste because there's 2 more of these. I'm going to edit that middle one first. So we're looking at bar 2 here. You'll see all the notes, because I've copied G twice. You can see G and the 2 copies here. So So don't start editing G. We want to keep that first bar the same. We're just looking at bar 2. So to help yourself not get confused, it's probably worth spreading that screen so that you're really just looking at bar 2 and just the notes we're going to edit for motif GI. The whole thing is the same, but an octave lower. So let's select all of these. And we're going to drag that down so the first note, instead of D2, is D1. If it will let me. Yes. That's done. All the other notes go exactly with it. So GI is done. Let's rename. And edit the third one here. Which is also identical, but another octave down. So this is going to start on D0. And in fact, I can just make this slightly easier for myself by deleting that last one. I'm going to copy and paste GI because that is already at 1 octave down. So to go an extra octave down, it's easier just to edit that. And I only have to drag these notes down one more lot. So again, let's make sure we're just looking at bar 3 here. Select all. And drag down. So the first note is on D0. Okay, if you want to have a listen. We didn't do this on the earlier motifs, but it's a really good idea. Once you programmed them in, have a listen, check that there's nothing that really stands out as being odd or strange. You know the song, you might not know how it's meant to sound exactly, but you'll hear, your ears should hear if there are little things not quite working. Real sub-bass sound on that last one. I forgot to rename that. Never do what I just did. Always rename it. Okay, that sounded good. Obviously they don't play one after the other, they'll all be at the same time eventually, but we know that we've done the right thing. That is motif G done.